Hi, welcome. I'm Michael Shearer and this is a reading of Walking a Rainbow about my son and I, 9 at the time, that's my son not I, walking the Camino de Santiago. This is chapter 9 called Being in the Right Place. What happened immediately before this was that I got involved in a sort of forced pub crawl with a ex-Vietnam American soldier, and got out of that. So an afternoon in the heat of drinking more than I would wish to. Chapter 9. Being in the right place. The walk back to the refuge sobered me up a bit. About a dozen more pilgrims had arrived. We sat in the garden and ate a simple meal of boiled eggs, fresh bread, olives and cheese. I let Kez have the red wine and I drank lots of tea. We shared the eggs with 3 bold black and white kittens, still wobbly on their little legs. I found a magpie's feather and put it in my hat. "We just missed a fiesta here," said Kez eagerly. "I know, San Fermin. They let bulls loose in the streets and people ran in front of them." "I know. One man got killed." "Really?" "Yeah, and they jump from the top of the fountains." "The bulls?" "Don't be silly." The fountains were typically 10 or 12 feet high with a wide basin beneath. A friend back in Ingatstone, Essex, went to San Fermin every year and had told me much about it. He regarded it as a period of temporary insanity that enabled him to stay relatively sane for the rest of the year. Then the Red Cross arrived. They had come to treat an injured pilgrim. We went to have a look. A big American had one foot up on a stool. Most of the nail on his big toe had come off, somehow turned over on edge in his boot and cut into the flesh. The nail had moved around as he had walked and cut deep. It was an ugly wound. He wouldn't be walking any more. "Surely you could feel it as you were walking." "Yeah, but you get used to the pain after a while, and I didn't think it was this bad." He was very despondent, all the way from the States. Kez turned to me. "Why don't you go and let the nurse look at your ankles?" he said. I glanced at the attractive young woman. "Okay." Some years ago I damaged both Achilles tendons walking in the French Pyrenees. They had never really healed, and I'd been getting by since Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port on daily painkillers. Kez called them ankle pills. She gently examined my ankles and tried some massage. Each had a lump on the back like a little Adam's apple. They were very tender. After, I went back to Kez, who was playing with the kittens. "What did she say?" "She said it could be serious and I should pack it in and go and get them x-rayed." "Are you going to?" "No. I'll see how it goes. I'm not giving up unless I have to." I gazed around the garden, somewhat despondent. One woman sat alone and quiet in the dappled shade of a large sapling, eating fruit. She was not dressed for walking in heat. She wore a long dress of soft brown, the skirt in folds like Greek drapery. The hem, wrists and neckline were a band of ornate mid-green symbols. Around her neck, resting on her ample bosom, was a necklace of chunky orange beads. Her movements were confident, with a calm grace, as if her eating was some kind of ceremony. I felt drawn to her, and in the easy habit of the camaraderie of pilgrims, I left Kez to the kittens and went and sat at her table, opposite her. Her hair was jet black and hung straight and heavy to her shoulders. Long, opalescent orange earrings drooped like elegant fruit. Her deep brown eyes seemed elsewhere. We both stayed silent. There was a sense of warm serenity, as if she was meditating on some ultimate home, and the experience had changed the very air around her. She turned her head very slowly towards me and nodded once. "You are walking the way," she stated, and looked directly into my eyes. The mood of restful contentment deepened. She picked up a pocket knife with a brown wooden handle, pulled out the blade, twisted the ferrule on the handle, and began to cut up an apple. Everything seemed in slow motion. "There are special places on the way," she said, paring out the core. "So I understand." "No, you don't," she asserted, holding a slice of apple between thumb and knife and taking it with her very white teeth. She waved the knife in a dismissive gesture. "These places are not in the guidebooks," she said firmly, dipping her head towards me, showing a flash of earring. "Then how do you know where they are?" She pointed the very sharp point of the knife towards me and jabbed 3 times. "Use your feelings. Trust your intuition. You can do it." Then she seemed to mellow out. The slight tension that had built melted in a gentle smile. Her eyes softened. "Think of it as a sort of test. There are 5 places, 5 special places. Find them." She jerked the knife in the air several times as if fending off a wasp, which indicated plainly that the interview was at an end. I rose in a bit of a daze and went back to Kaz. What on earth was that all about? It felt a bit silly. Later, we went for a stroll down the village and popped into the bar Tremendo. The TV was on and the A team was fighting some people with a machine that fired cabbages. After that, football. I didn't pay much attention until I heard a few English names. England versus Spain. I looked up in time to see England gain possession in midfield. There was a good run on the left wing and a neat cross and goal! I shouted. There was a heavy silence. I turned to see a dozen pairs of hostile Spanish eyes. "You're not very diplomatic," said Kez quietly. "I forgot where we are." We went and sat in a corner. A small man with a droopy moustache, wearing a pink shell suit, came over to talk with us. The talk was hard work, with much gesturing and mime and drawing of pictures. He repeated something that sounded like artista de ceramica, some sort of potter. He took us out to his car and showed us the models he had made, neat little replicas of churches, chapels, hermitages. Then he proudly displayed his kiln in the back of the van. Pamplona was turning out such a mixture of the violent and the creative, yin and yang. It is said that Pamplona comes from Pampas de la Luna, fields of the moon. There is much creativity in Pamplona because there is such need for it. Somehow, in the character of this place, male bravado flourishes. A need for a test, a hankering for a fight, facing the bulls. The city has emerged from history with thick defensive walls. In this wide and fertile plain, something is challenged. And as each thing creates its compensatory opposite, there is sensitive empathy also. Or rather, to take the hint from the Taoist mural, these opposites exist in mutual presence. However it comes about, I can't recall a more naked confrontation of the traditionally male and female forces as in this place. During the day, the sun had pounded down. Now the garden shone with a delicate silvery light. That night I dreamt of a mature woman with an owl on her shoulder carrying a chalice. Behind her, in the rich blue sky, a full moon. She beckoned, smiling. I woke up the next morning with the mother of a hangover. Maribel was shouting at me. We were very late and must go now. She wanted to go and get some shopping. Maribel jerked curtains open angrily, and the hot sun flooded in. I looked around. Everyone had left except Kez and I. Come on, Kez, we've got to go. What? Go, come on, she wants us out. What? I busied about packing my bag. I'd wash some other time. Then I started packing Kez's rucksack. Maribel flitted about banging things, very irritable, tidying up. She really was most insistent. Come on, man, on the road. We must shift. What? Slowly, painfully slowly, Kez, zombie-like, began to show lethargic signs of what passes for life with him when he wakes up. It took me ages to get him up and out, and then only into the bar Tremendo for a Mars bar and his usual 3 cups of coffee. After a short bit of road, we turned off into the huge plain, a vast sea of gently rolling golden wheat and stubble, beneath a delicate, cloudless Wedgwood sky. The path was bleached, white dust and sparse grass hammered by the sun. A plague of cyclists passed us in 1s and 2s, a nuisance because we could never hear them until they suddenly appeared at our side and belted past. We climbed a hill with difficulty, both below par, and descended through the village of Gwendoline, scarcely noticing it. We trudged on through the unpronounceable Zaligwegwi, feeling bludgeoned by the heat into silence. Up and down the undulating path we laboured, the white and grey earth beneath our feet like cracked and rutted cement. Up again to a ridge and a road at Alto del Perdon, and a view of another sea, a patchwork of gold and sea-kale green, and stubbled fields of wavering stripes of gold and chocolate. The baked stubble smelt like fresh bread. Butterflies flitted continually around us in this fiesta of colour, mostly with wings of sorbet lemon, with hot orange tips, others plush black with cream splashes, light blues less commonly, and a flurry of black and white magpie moths, alighting and aloft around pale violet scabious. Nothing moved except us in Uterga. Life seemed wiped out by the heat. Permanent siesta stunned the place. At a horse trough we guzzled welcome cold water. You could have fried a chicken on this stone. "Hey, look at this," said Kez, leaning over the trough. All along the waterline was a row of wasps, clinging to the stone, heads down, drinking. We bent over like the wasps, plunged our arms in the cool water, splashed it over our faces and shirts. At a dozen steps down the road, it had all evaporated. More fields beyond, where we found tall fennel, which we snapped and sucked for the refreshing aniseed taste, and lavender, which we collected to put among our clean clothes. Neat vines and huge exuberant sunflowers taller than Kes by the path to Muruthabal, where we decamped into a bar. A line of local young men sat on bar stools by the counter, heads down, drinking. We had 2 quick beers and left. Obanos, just down the way, was preparing for a fiesta. A gravelly area had been sectioned off, and tiers of red seating were being erected. The heat intensified. We found some trees and took a nap. Rode most of the rest of the way to Puente la Reina, Queensbridge. Only mid-afternoon, but this was an important place, a place where 3 roads meet. We would try and stay here. A small square with a fountain appeared to our left. Here we paused to take stock. The sky had reached a depth of living blue that flowed into the self and joined with its kin within. Just look at the colour of that sky, Kes. I sighed in admiration, a mug of good, cool water in my hand. Such a vivid, vital blue, the sacred colour of the Mother of God, the colour of death in Tibet. I recall once walking into a shop in London which sold material, cloth for dresses and curtains and such like. It was having a special indigo sale, and the entire shop was enrobed with sheets of deepest indigo, like slabs of oceanic marble. This beautiful colour was draped everywhere. The bass note of feeling, a serene fire, the shade of wisdom. It was like going home. As I stared at the sky, I seemed to dissolve into it. It had a pull that matched my yearning. It seemed to be drawing me out of myself into the wide blue yonder. It offered relief from the burden of the trite and stupid narrowness of myself. The petty desire to impress and read off my value on the faces of others. All the effort required to move those faces till they registered my worth. Wasn't this, at heart, why I was a teacher in the first place? Why I would eventually try to write a book? I was being offered a vibrant death, a drowning in life, submersion in sky, and I could feel its sweet, seductive, pure enticement. "Come, my love," she whispers. "Come and die."